Hello everyone, my name is Mili Santamaria. That's actually Maria Milagro Santamaria. Mili is easier for everyone. I am a lawyer, I do Web3 consulting and also work for a fund back in Singapore and as well in Portugal called August 1. And my working group has a very complicated task of both working with LF as part of the Sandbox in Buenos Aires and the potential creation of other a new and national level Sandbox, special economic zone or tax-free zone. But beyond that, and let's see, there you go. My grandma, in a kind of personal note, she used to be a drama and public speaker professor, and she said, whenever you do a talk about what you're going to talk about what you're right now talking about, and talk about what you just talked about. So my intention is to show you guys how, with Sandbox, both in a BA and LF point of view, and later on, roadmap, Argentina, national level point of view, is aligned with Crecimiento's objectives. How it is on a short-term basis, middle and long-term basis, and finally, what we're trying to build and what we want to propose later on in August in LF. So considering the short-term objectives, August is right around the corner, and LF Pop-Up City is in the middle of the application of the Buenos Aires Sandbox, inside of the Buenos Aires Law 6491. What we're trying to do with this is to set up precedents. As an example, this specific sandbox that we're in the middle of the application already had a very specific project in the industrial park, enabling people to go back and forth with AI-powered different public transportation. But later on, what we're going to focus especially is, according to the medium and long-term objectives of Crecimiento, how we're trying to show that on the last point, the regulatory framework can help to the 20-year stability for different startup and projects, but starting small to later on go big. So short-term objectives and where are we at and why is this important? What is this specific sandbox that nobody's really talking about? Because sandboxes are not really a big thing in Argentina, and this is why this is a good moment, a good window to start applying and set legal precedents for whatever we're enabling now. For Web3 projects, we're talking about AI, blockchain, IoT, NFC, any of this to happen and be able to be replicated for over 2 to 3 years after the government considers of public interest. So we're in the middle of this process because we want to show to everyone there are good practices in Argentina and good Web3 projects that are already thriving and doing pretty well. After this presentation, there are a couple of guests showing their own startups and how they've been able to surf around the regulatory framework in Argentina, which is tricky, but still surfable. You can still get barreled. So it's still something that we can show, but that we're aiming to get better. That's why we're all together right now. So how do we tackle that third objective? We were talking about how do we give these startups, the ones that are coming, the ones that are already there, the 20-year stability that they deserve so Argentina can do better not only for Web3 related people, but for everyone. And for this, our working group back in Argentina and pretty much everywhere has divided their efforts in different things and started like, what do we have right now when it comes to the regulatory framework? What works, what doesn't work? What are the pain points? What are the legal blockers that we have and how do we address them? And the specific regulators related to those legal problems, right? Because there's also the good. We got the Sandbox law that I just mentioned, Economía del Conocimiento, we got the RIGI, we got the Technological District of Buenos Aires, and we even have already special economic zones down north and down south and up north as well. This means that there is more to do than we actually think. So if we start with the good things, we also have to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly, we have already experienced that for the past decades. The bad, okay, what are our pain points? When we identify our pain points, we talk about the legal complexities, the bureaucratic hurdles, the economic volatility, the lack of predictability on any project that we want to be able to have developed. We need to think who is to blame or what are the specific regulations that we can pinpoint and the different regulators on top of them. We can talk about the CNV, which is the Argentina SEC for reference. We can talk about the BCRI, which is the central bank. We can talk about WEF. We can talk about many of them. But once we identify the good and what we want to keep, when we identify the bad and what needs to be changed, we can start thinking, okay, what do we build from this space that we want to keep and that we want to change? And we have different options. We can talk about, we're considering a national level sandbox. We're considering a special economic zone because there have been others that have worked and others that haven't worked so much. And then also the consideration of a tax-free zone, right? They have different characteristics, they have different ways of implementations, and they require different kind of resources. If we consider the sandbox, it's experimental flexibility environment, which is controlled for different projects to work with regulators to learn, and from them set up legal precedent that can help us and other projects as well. Because truth is, in Argentina, we're lacking legal clarity on several concepts. It's just not just what is a security token or pirate offering. That's just a small part of it. So this is a good way to also set up precedents without having to wait years of just debate on one specific crypto law, as an example. Or it could be a special economic zone. We could also tackle the tax incentives or the tax pains that projects have nowadays. Or a tax-free zone, but it could be a little bit too specific, although there's also the consideration of combining them in a different roadmap. For this, during the past few months, we've been speaking with people from all over the world, with legal experts, tax-free zone experts, special economic zone experts from everywhere. We can name Christian Betancourt, Niklas Angsinger, we can name renowned Bob Haywood, and all of them have given us different insights that we're trying to also address. As an example, we're trying to identify those target industries that can benefit with Web3 startups and companies, because in the end, we're talking about different types of technologies that can be applied to any kind of industry. And in Argentina, we know agribusiness is important, tourism is important, education is fundamental. So to try to find or create a new product or project, we could call it a special economic zone or a sandbox, that through the use of these technologies, the rest of the country can also get better. We're also trying to understand what is good to take from the already existing models, like in Prospera in Honduras, what is being done in Brazil, the DLT pilot regime that's back in Europe, and what works and what doesn't work, and what we want to replicate. And the same kind of analysis on what we already have in Argentina, what did not work, and okay, this could be a good way. Beyond this, there's also the possibility and the consideration of structuring a roadmap. Therefore, start a little bit smaller, like a sandbox, for later on, with the right kind of political involvement, consider a potential creation of a special economic zone that could last way longer than just 2 or 3 years as a regular sandbox. Because this is a long game. We're not just talking about making an effort right now and then just sit down and be comfortable. Even Prospera, as a good example, took a little bit of time for it to get together. It got for them to become a group of people, of enthusiasts, a community, then a legal project to come out, change the constitution. At the beginning, when you think about a big project, you get a little bit overwhelmed and intimidated. But in the end, it's baby steps. Already this conversation is a huge step, even if it just feels like a tiny one, right? Day by day. And again, we're considering collaboration, coordination, and cooperation. And why is this? Because we don't want to do this alone. And if we ever say that we did this on our own, we're actually lying. There's so many Argentinians and foreigners as well that are passionate about making a better world, to work with a purpose. And in Argentina, we're already speaking with different organizations like the FinTech Chamber that's already working on a sandbox to potentially work together. We're speaking with the CNB, which again is the Argentina SEC, to actually collaborate in a potential multi-agency sandbox, like we're showing over here, to target specific pain points that we keep hearing startups complain. They were mentioned by Juan, by Emmy. We're talking about funding, we're talking about credit, we're talking about taxes. Some of them just want on-chain governance. It's fair, but in the end, why not try to tackle something that ends up being holistic for all of them? So we have our part of our group talking with experts, with different stakeholders, with part of the government as well, to understand, okay, this is what we have and what we want to keep. These are the pain points and the blockers, how to address them. And then when it comes to sandbox, special economic zone, or tax-free zone, from abroad, this is what we want to replicate. From Argentina, this is what we want to keep, what we don't want to replicate. And this is the easiest, fastest, less resource-consuming path that we can take. So by the month of August, we can present this to all of you and then start stage 3 for us, which is implementation. And at the same time, it's important to mention that we are technologically agnostic. It's a little bit like religion in that sense. We just want everyone to do better from an economic, personal, every kind of perspective, and not just thinking about Web 3, Web 2.5, Web 2, just in general. It would be selfish if it wasn't the case. And we are also politically neutral, which is important to mention. And now looking at that ball, we were having an asado, I think it's the 10th time in this conversation that we said asado or barbecue last night, and we were mentioning one specific case that happened 2 years ago. Who remembers the World Cup 2022? I think that more than 3 people remembers it. And especially Argentinians, but the point is that I made a small reflection on how before we actually won, or maybe at the beginning, after we lost with Saudi Arabia, we were not expecting, but people or my foreign friends were saying, I find it so funny that the Ministry of Economy said that if you guys win the World Cup, then inflation is going to be fixed, or something similar to this. And they would laugh about it, but they didn't understand that it was the first time in a very long time, especially after the break, or la grieta, like we call it, that Argentinians were all in the same team, no matter their religion, their socioeconomic background, what would be their political beliefs, that they really wanted Argentina to do better just because they were Argentinian, but because they really had faith and the illusion that it could happen. And you also had the rest of the world, a big part of the world, that they were rooting for us. And then I think it was James that made the joke, are you talking about Crecimiento? And actually, it might slightly apply. We just want to have our people do better by doing better, with a big part of the world rooting for us and being bullish for us, with the difference that this time we're not playing against the French. Hopefully they're with us in this one, which would be something actually good, of course. And Manon, you're part of our team. You know that the French are good for us. Great. We're working together. Coordination, collaboration, cooperation, which is good. So as my grandma told me, what did I just talk about? I just talked about that we're doing the analysis of what is the existing legal landscape in Argentina that you can already build from. We're analyzing the pain points or the blockers that need to be changed, and as well the potential creation of any of these three as a sandbox, special economic zone, a tax-free zone. So this one can be addressed over there and this can be kept. To propose a structure that, in the words of Bob Haywood, enables productivity, profitability, and as well predictability for that growth that can make all of us feel both safe and excited. On that case, everyone is welcome to build and make part of it. From the people that just want to maybe deep dive into work and meet new people and new projects that are not Argentinian, and to those Argentinians that really want to make a difference and build their own projects, or even to test out a different kind of reality that we can still make. So where we're at, we're applying Aleph in the middle of the application of Aleph inside of the Sandbox of Buenos Aires. And during the month of August, we're going to be in the middle of the test protocol, so nothing can be on fire. No, I'm just a joke. We still have insurance. We just signed it. We're in the middle of stakeholder negotiation as well, because in the end, it's a very cliche thing to say, but in the end, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So we're speaking with CNB, BCAI, which is the central bank, and as well the FinTech Chamber, as I mentioned. And this proposal of this package and how it's going to look like, our efforts are targeting for the third week of August to come with a package, and from the package start with the implementation phase. If there's any comment, anything you guys like to say. If not, I'm going to be here for the rest of the week, and yeah, happy to be here.